Yeah, Oregon really needed a bounce back win after Monday's loss to Auburn, and they got, well, however you want to describe the opposite of a bounce back as San Diego State blows out the Ducks.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for a reaction episode of Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view post whatever that was in Las Vegas. I'm going to talk about all of it here on the show. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all so much for making that the case. This episode brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Oregon loses to San Diego State 97-80. The Aztecs were coming off a loss to Michigan 94-54 last night, in which they shot under 30% from the field, and their get-right game turned out to be Oregon, because holy smokes. Now, to the Aztecs' credit, man, they were hitting some tough shots out there. Tough shots. That was a component to this. It was not even close to all of it. I don't even know if it was a majority of it. Oregon just made it way too easy for San Diego State to get shots off, and the Aztecs were just way more active. 6 blocks and 7 steals for San Diego State. Oregon had 2 blocks and 4 steals. This was something that happened against Auburn as well. The defensive activity for the other team is noticeably different than Oregon's, and it doesn't make that much sense other than Shelstad, who is small, but he's at least active. He gets his hand in the passing lane. He tries to knock the ball free. He works, and everybody else has the length to be that disruptive, and they are just flat out not. Oregon gave up 97 points. 97 points. There was a game last year, I think it was against Purdue at Matthew Knight Arena. This game felt exactly like that. Exactly like that. The other team is just making everything, it seems, and then Oregon isn't working hard enough to do the little things right. San Diego State had 8 offensive rebounds in this game. That's actually not a terrible number. And Oregon continues to be a solid rebounding team. They got outgained on the glass 34-26 in this game, but it was the timing of those offensive rebounds that was infuriating. If you're a fan and you've watched these games, it's hard to not be frustrated. This is a frustrating team to watch if you are an Oregon fan, because they don't do a lot of the little things right. And I am not coming on this show declaring that the season is over, they won't make the NCAA tournament, that Dana is cooked. No, it's way too early for that. But I said coming into this week, and after the Auburn game yesterday, that 1-1 was the objective, and it was perfectly feasible. Oregon is an astonishing. I haven't seen this before. They're 0-6 against the spread. They were favored in this game against San Diego State, a team you should be able to beat, a team you should be favored against, and they didn't just beat you. It wasn't close. San Diego State put up 51 points in the first half. 51. They finished the game 11 for 23 from beyond the arc. It was better than that in the first half. They finished the game, get this, shooting 67% from the field. That number came down from halftime. It was just shy of 70. This is a really discouraging effort. I know playing the second night of a back-to-back is tough. I noticed that San Diego State was doing it as well. And I think that's part of why the scores were so high, is that it's hard to lock in at the defensive end when you're playing the second night of a back-to-back. College teams almost never do that, by the way, unless it's the conference tournament. But man, Jackson Shelstad came out of the gates. I'm just going to save all the positivity for later. The defensive effort was just never there. The consistency, they're not passing things off well in the matchup zone. They're not able to contest enough shots. They're contesting shots, but they aren't making strong enough challenges to force guys to miss. I watched Oregon try to go into the paint, and man, against Auburn, against San Diego State, it has been tough. It has been difficult for anybody to finish. Biddle had a chip on his shoulder and was playing with a fiery passion to try to get shots. And he was upset at one point he wasn't getting the ball because he should have on an entry pass. Oregon continues to be a really poor passing team outside of Jackson Shelstad. And the turnovers came down in this game. Oregon was +2 in the turnover department. They had 13 compared to 18 last night against Auburn. That at least went forward, and okay, that's something. But man, there are still amongst your starters 3 guys with at least 3 turnovers: Evans, Biddle, and Shelstad. And some of them, like, turnovers are going to happen when you play good defensive teams. San Diego State and Auburn, good defensive teams with good coaches and good rosters. Like that's going to happen. It's the sloppy ones that I think are really frustrating to watch. The ones where, Shelstad's igniting the offense and he just kind of loses care of the dribble for a moment and a guy just takes it from him. It's not like he made a great defensive play. He just kind of lost it, gave it to him. Or you drive into the paint, and a number of guys have done this in the last couple of days. You see drives into the paint, and then they try to pass the ball, and it just goes to nobody. Or it gets thrown at somebody's feet. It's a jump ball, possession arrow the other way, turnover. Like, they do that way too often. And there is a component of this, and the struggles they've had protecting the ball, the lack of cohesion it feels like they play with at both ends of the floor right now. There's a component of this. Big reason why I'm not saying the season's over and they're not going to do anything. They're a very new team. Yes, Shelstad, Evans, and Biddle, those guys, by the way, all played great. KJ Evans playing the best ball of his career. I'm going to talk about him more in the second segment and the things that I did like in this game and try to end on an optimistic note, which is tough. Which is tough when you lose by 17 points in a game that you once trailed by over 20. So I'm pretty sure it got to 20 at one point or around 20. It doesn't matter. There are some positives for Oregon, particularly at the offensive end. But, man, the defense, again, just isn't there. 84 to Auburn, 97 to San Diego State. We have seen Dana clean these things up as the season has gone along. Boy, I would not have wanted to be a player, a fly on the wall, a staffer, anybody in the locker room after this game. Oregon just played 2 games in marquee matchups against legit opponents with real chances to bolster the NCAA tournament resume for an at-large. And guess what? They gave up 90.5 points per game. In college basketball, that is a horrifically bad stretch. And Dana Altman's about defense, and the guys are just not playing it. Biddle was hobbled in this game. I think that's limited his shot blocking a little, or limited his shot blocking tonight. Don't think he was injured against Auburn at all, really. But, man, there is just not enough of a rim presence. There isn't a Jordan Bell, a Kenny Wooten, and N'Faly Dante in there. And I think Dante's a guy that Oregon is seriously missing because of his ability. Like, KJ Evans is the only rebounder I trust at the moment. Other guys, it is so hit and miss. Evans was Oregon's leading rebounder with 5 in this game. Now, you don't have as many chances to rebound when the other team is making 67% of their shots. They missed 29 shots in the entire game. The entire game. And they got 8 offensive rebounds. And when Oregon had chances to make runs in this game, they just weren't able to because they couldn't get early in the first half. They couldn't get defensive rebounds. And San Diego State was hitting a bunch of tough shots. So, the stereotypical thing to say, you flush it, move on, go to the next one. I don't know. I think you guys studied the tape pretty hard on this and understand how you can get better because that is a really disappointing performance. Again, I had more positive things than negative things to say after the Auburn game. This one, it's way more negative. Way more in the negative department because the Auburn game went like that. When you get your first loss of the year, it should light a fire under you. You got to have the urgency to go out there and just take the next game, and they just didn't. Shelstad did. So I am going to end on a positive note because, again, there are things that make me feel encouraged about what Oregon can do going forward, but there are just so many things to work on right now. Just so many problems with the team, and it's going to take some time, but they don't have time. There's a third game in Vegas that's probably on Thursday, maybe Wednesday. I haven't checked the calendar, but don't worry about that right now. Still, the positives coming up next. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Oregon at Washington for football, Ducks -6.5. Oregon basketball. I've never seen it before. We'll see how long it continues. Astonishingly, they're 0-6 against the spread. 4-2 overall. But they did not cover against Hawaii or Rice or South Dakota State or Oregon State. They were close. But then Auburn was a 3.5-point favorite. They won by 11. Oregon was favored, lost the game against San Diego State. So if you think that's going to continue, hey, FanDuel might be the place to go. They've got college football, basketball, everything that you could possibly want. And right now, new customers can get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. This episode also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time, which I used to get my tickets to the Oregon game on Monday. As disappointing as that was, I had a great seat. View was awesome. I got a good deal. I knew what to expect when I showed up because Game Time is the app that is giving the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. They are not about endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. They're about giving you exactly what you want. A good deal to a great event where you know exactly what to expect, what to pay, what it's going to look like, how to get in. FanDuel is great, and Game Time also great. Crossed them up a little right there, but they're both just so top tier that's just the way my brain confused them for a moment. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, it's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. That's a Back in Oregon second segment sip. Hope you were all with family for the holidays. So, the positives for Oregon in this game. They shoot 40% from the field, not great. 13 turnovers, +2 in the turnover margin in this one. I think some of that shifted a bit when the game was out of reach. I felt like the turnovers were early on a problem for Oregon. But they went 12 of 28 from 3. That was a problem for the first few games of the season. 18 of 22 at the line. KJ Evans was 6 for 6 at the stripe. He hit 2 threes. Nate Biddle hit a triple. If you heard my reaction show yesterday, I said, well, if Nate Biddle and KJ Evans are going to shoot and combine, they're going to average about 7 3-point attempts a game. You got to be able to make at least 2, probably 3. Well, guess what? They made 3. Every Oregon starter made a 3. Biddle was 1 for 3. Simpkins 1 for 2. He was limited after having a big day. This was a Shelstad day, who was 5 of 9 from 3. And then Devon Pryor hit 2 triples as well. So the offense is frankly in a spot that I'm mostly comfortable with to an extent. The turnovers are still infuriating. The inability to pass consistently, boy, I watch a lot of other teams, not just the ones that Oregon plays, execute passes on the interior and lobs and entry passes. Those 3 areas, Oregon, even Shelstad, they are just not good at. They're straight up, they cannot do it consistently. And it really hurts them. It really, really hurts them. Because you don't just likely turn the ball over in that sequence, you're missing out on an opportunity not just to score, but usually a high percentage shot. So Oregon has failed. The one example that stands out, and it's not fair to pick on KJ Evans, just the one that popped into my head from this game. He was working in the high post. Devon Pryor cut backdoor, and he was there for a lob, and Evans just throws it to where Devon Pryor, who's a freakishly good athlete, had no chance to get the ball. There was the first set of the game. Oregon comes out. They know out of the tip what offensive action they want to get into. And Pryor again cut back door, and Biddle just either didn't see him or didn't trust that he could make the pass, but it was wide open for an easy dunk. Those are the sorts of things offensively that Oregon's still got to be able to work on. But man, the three-point shooting is starting to come along. You knew Biddle and Shelstad wouldn't stay down forever. They were 6 of 27 from the floor in yesterday's game, and that's not going to get it done. In this one, 12 of 21 between the two, and they were 6 of 12 from three. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. So, and they had 34 points combined. KJ Evans, Oregon's second leading scorer. Boy, I was hesitant to jump on his offense has improved bandwagon earlier this year. I'm just about ready to say it because he did it against Auburn. He did it against San Diego State. Those are NCAA tournament caliber teams. He had 16 points on 8 shots. He made all 6 free throws, 5 boards, 5 assists, 3 turnovers. Got to get that down, and a block shot. KJ Evans is playing the best offensive basketball. His ability to finish with both hands is great. He's a little bit better as a dribbler. He's driving aggressively. His moves are more decisive. They're more fluid. I'm liking that a lot. I really am. Also, Devon Pryor is going to spend a lot of time sitting in the corner. He had 9 points, only 1 rebound in this game. Again, because San Diego State was making everything they looked at. But he's proven that he's a great rebounder. Defensively, I think he works really hard and can test shots, and San Diego State just hit some tough ones in this game. But he has to be a part. You can't be a starter and a non-factor on offense or just a consistent non-contributor. So this was kind of the perfect example offensively in these 2 games of sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. Biddle and Shelstad off on Monday. Who had it going? Simpkins and Evans a little bit. And Pryor contributed. And Pryor contributed again. But then Simpkins is taken away. Evans is still there, but Biddle and Shelstad are able to fill the void. Now, something else I've talked about. There has to be bench production from somewhere. Sean Stewart, 1 point and 4 rebounds in 21 minutes. Wei Lin, 5 points on 2 of 7 shooting. At least he made another 3. Him seeing the ball go through the net is good. Des Lindsey, Kobzitsi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He played a little bit in this game. I think that was more about the game just getting out of hand at that point. But no one on Oregon's bench was able to step up and contribute in a significant way. That's not going to do it. San Diego State's advantage at the half in bench points was crazy. It was crazy good. Or crazy good for San Diego State. I don't remember what the exact total was, but again, I can talk at length about Oregon's got to get more from their rotation guys off the bench. Des Lindsey, he does not have his shot right now. I like his athleticism and defensive activity, but he's looking and feeling a little bit like Raheem Moss from last year. Defensive specialist, not going to score a whole heck of a lot. Wei Lin has moments, but 2 of 7 from the floor. There's something about Jamari Phillips that they don't trust completely to play, and I like what his offensive game can be. Maybe he doesn't bring enough of the defensive end. If you could combine Des Lindsey and Jamari Phillips, you'd have, probably something resembling Devon Pryor, frankly. And Pryor hit a turnaround in this game in the mid-post that reminded me how skilled he can really be. And I'm curious to see how his offensive game continues to develop, because I think his potential is immense. And if he can be a reliable, get his own shot, which is what he did a couple times, score in addition to being a spot-up shooter, he's got to hit the corner 3. So if he can get that next level, I think that can be good for Oregon on offense. But early in games, man, they just take way too long to settle into an offensive rhythm. Shelstad was bailing him out because he came out 4 of 4 from 3 after going 1 of 11 yesterday. So, I wasn't worried about Shelstad yesterday. This would be why. 21 points, 3 assists to 3 turnovers. That's not an acceptable ratio from your point guard. But, overall, offense wasn't the problem. Oregon was over 50% in the first half, and they trailed by 10. They could not defend anything. San Diego State looked good. They had a bounce-back game. Reese Dixon-Waters, the USC transfer, had 22 points on 13 shots and did not attempt a free throw. San Diego State put up 97 points. They were 8 of 9 at the foul line. Oregon was plus 10 and made free throws and lost the game by 17. That's yikes. So I'm going to wrap it there. Like the offensive positivity, I'm serious about that. There are some underlying trends that I like. I'm worried about the bench production, but the number one thing I'm worried about, defense. Man, 2 tournament teams, best that Oregon has played this year, and you give up 90.5 points a game. That's unacceptably bad. So that's got to improve. I've seen Dana do it before. I've seen Dana turn around more dire situations than this. So I'm not sitting here and telling you it can't be done. I'm just saying that there is some serious work to do. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.